guys, welcome back to another video. This one's different again. This one I'm doing a little bit of work on some old retro PCs, and these are ones that need the Dallas clocks replaced. And I do have some new Dallas clocks. These are the chips in the old PCs before we had the coin cell batteries that went on the boards. This is the one they had, which had some other circuitry inside as well as a battery that was non-rechargeable. So it would go down over time, and then when it got flat, you'd lose all the settings in the machine. Pretty much the same as a modern day PC does when its coin cell battery goes out. But these were all encapsulated in one device, which was on a set of pins that 99% of the time was soldered into the board. Some of the later ones were socketed because people were complaining about the chip and how to replace the clock in it. There are mods you can do to put coin cell batteries on the back of them, and in this one you'll see that I've done that, as you can see here. There are lots and lots of videos on the net about it, so I won't go too much into how to do that, but there are a lot on there. Now, there were some curly ones with this, and it's still not 100%. So, if I find out what's causing the issues I came up with, there'll be a part 2 to this that may help other people fix the same problem. But anyway, that's enough prattling on from me, and hopefully you like this one. It's a little bit different. It's not in the same vein as the other stuff, but I'm waiting for some bits to finish off the Macintosh, and I need to find another couple of bits for the Coleco to finish that one off. Okay guys, so what we're going to do now is carry on and see if we can resurrect the battery back up on these old PCs. Now there's about 2 or 3 of these I've got to do, and they're all the same battery. I'll take you through that. There are a few things that people still think, oh, is it the same as this or the same as that? There's a couple of different batteries. There are also circuit boards you can make that do away with having to put the Dallas battery clocks back in, because they are old and they're not being made anymore. You may buy some that are old new stock and the batteries are dead anyway. The thing is to buy a Dallas clock, if you buy them reasonably off the net, it's cheaper than getting one of the circuits. And so long as you can get the seller to guarantee that there's nothing wrong with them and that the batteries aren't dead, you'll be fine. You can go down that track. The other thing I am going to look at is I'm looking at some preheater units. Decent size. A lot of the preheaters you can get now for heating up boards for doing surface mount are small, unless you want to spend a lot of money and getting a big one. I'm looking at a open source version of a reasonably sized, reasonably priced one. So keep an eye out for that video, as they are very, very handy for doing a lot of these more modern day jobs where you need to do surface mount stuff. Okay, so without any more, let's get on with it. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do, as you can see on the bench here, this is not an 8-bit PC. This is an old clone PC. This one I think is a socket 7, so it's probably going to be a Pentium 1 area. This needs the Dallas clock replaced. The battery's died in this. I know you can actually mod these, and there are circuit boards to replace these with a more modern setup, which you just have the cell coin batteries that go in them. The price of getting those boards, the components, or getting them made, it was cheaper to buy the brand new Dallas clocks. These I think turn around and cost me something like $2 each. the boards were going to cost me a lot more than that. What I'm going to do is desolder this. I'll put a socket in, and then this can socket into it. Later on down the track, the owner of this machine, if they need to, they can put in whichever one they like. There's not a lot to do here. Just desolder these pins, put a socket in, and then we'll carry on. I've got about 3 of these to do. They all failed on the clock, so the battery's gone in them. So I've got these 3 to do, and then as I said, these machines are complete running machines, and they're going to go for sale. I'm going to stick them online and sell them. Right guys, so as you saw, removing this old Dallas clock, some of the pins have the battery on them, and they may have been the pins I was having the issue with. So that's why I had to go in and bit of flux, new solder, suck them out, but there was that one pin, and that was because it was soldered through onto the top of the board as well, so it was becoming a pain to get off. But I managed to get it by heating the pin up underneath, and then it popped out, as you saw. Just had to make sure a couple of the holes were actually all the way through. Some of them were partially blocked, and that's why the socket wouldn't drop in. The board has the orientation for an IC on it, which means pin 1 is to the dip in the board. So that's what you got to do, and that then also points to the plus on the Dallas clock. So that's in there now, and as you saw, I just gave the board a bit of a clean, took the old thermal paste off of the processor, As you saw there, it's an AMD K5 PR133. So it's a nice old chip for a retro board. This does have 4x4 meg EDO RAM in it, which is the 72 pin stuff. So this has got 4x16s in it. So this has got 64 megs of RAM, not gigs, megs of RAM. And these boards could also take SD RAM. But the issue being is that the SD RAM, with the technology of these boards, couldn't take as much as the EDO. Even though it was twice as wide in the bus, it couldn't take as much. So sometimes going to SD, you didn't get much of an improvement, because as Windows went on to 95, 98, you found that more RAM was better than having faster RAM. So this is a really nice board. I'm pretty sure this is one I made many years ago for a client. The machine is complete. It does have serial and parallel. It has the power supply, the case, the whole thing. It's in a mid-tower case. There is no hard drive with it. A lot of these back in the day, we had to take the hard drives out and destroy them because of personal data. So, but something like a 4 gig or a 4 gig or even a 800 meg or 500 meg hard drive would be fine with this. 4 gig would be the sort of top limit. Probably an old Quantum 2 or an old Quantum 1.2 gig drive would be pretty much period for this thing, which would be back then something fairly high end. But anyway, I will get this back into its case and set up, and I'll get the next one out to do. Alright, so as you saw, the heat sink and fan were pretty choked, and I'd say there's been a few years worth of dirt and dust and stuff in there. Not the worst I've had, but pretty bad. Some of the worst I had would have been the original Intels, where the fan pops out of the inside of the heatsink. I think I have one of those I could show you. Now where the fan goes around, it was like solid inside, caked, actually physically caked with dust and dirt. So how it was being cooled, I have no idea, but the fan was going around and chewing it out. So, but anyway, I don't have that anymore, but that was one of the worst I've actually seen with a heatsink on a processor. Anyway, what I will do is put this one back in the case, and I've got another one. It's exactly the same. The boards will be a little bit different, but other than that, that's fine. If you want to carry on watching, you can carry on watching and seeing what the different boards are. I showed you with a bit of a higher shot. This is an AI TV-2 version 1 board. So any of you is looking to what it was, that's what it is. It's an Intel VX chipset, so it's one of the later model boards. It's not a BX. So I will put this away and get the other one out. Alright. Okay guys, so she's all back together. I'll just turn it up. You can see the front of the case. It's a bit yellow. It could probably do with a retro bright, but it's all original. It's one of the old PC Plus. It's one of the old PC Plus machines, and it's got an 18-speed IDE CD-ROM in it. The floppy drive, as you can see, the whole front of the case has gone that cheesy yellow colour. Even the floppy drive, which is quite unusual. So everything's sort of gone the same colour. But as I said, there is no hard drive in this. So I mean, down inside the machine there, it's all the cards. There's a S3 Verge video card. This is all from the one company because they've all got the same labels on them. So S3 Verge. There's a Yamaha sound card. It's a ISA. The Verge is a PCI, and there's a 56k Rockwell modem, which is ISA, and as I said, the RAM and that. So that's all back together. So I've just got to put the lid back on it, and I'll fire it up. There's no hard drive, so I can only fire it up to the BIOS just to make sure it's all working. Save the settings on default, shut down, or set the date and time, shut down, restart, and see if it keeps the date and time and everything. And then I'll unplug it and leave it for a while and just check it again to make sure it's retaining all the date and time and everything. Alright, I will close this one up and get on with the next. So guys, I put this up on a couple of forums I'm on Facebook, and someone got back to me and said try going into DOS and running debug and running a couple of debug commands in there to actually clear the BIOS. So I did that, and this is the video of what happened, and you can make your own judgment from there. Alright, so we will carry on and see what happens. And so there you have it. That's where I'm at too. Both boards seem to do the same thing. If I don't power it off, everything stays the same. A couple of times I've powered it off, powered it on, I have the error. If I go into the BIOS, the date and time is still fine, but I get the error. I was wondering if it could be a corrupted BIOS. I'm not 100% sure. The other thing I'm thinking of is popping out the BIOSes, because I have a EEPROM programmer, so I can pull those out, find the same or later model BIOSes for the boards, and just reprogram them and pop them back in. It could have been something when I was desoldering the batteries, or it could have been something to do with them when they were in there. I don't know. It could be the BIOS chip over time has gone bad. But anyway, that is my thinking from there. If you have any suggestions, guys, put it in the comments below and let me know. Have you had the same problem replacing a battery? Let me know. What did you do to fix it, if you did fix it? So, as I say, we're all learning, guys, and if there's anything you can do to help me, please let me know. Right, guys, so I went onto the forum again and left a message to another guy that sent me to a web page about reflashing the BIOS in the PC. And all I had to do was get it bootable by floppy and put the BIOS flashing utility and the latest BIOS on the disk and boot it up. Now, I did have Windows 95 and 622 disks from years ago, and a couple of those booted fine, as I had to use the debug command in the old video. One thing you need to make sure you have, guys, if you're going to do a lot of this gear, is get yourself a USB floppy drive. A godsend for putting files onto old media with a new machine, because a lot of your PCs now and laptops do not have floppy drives, and if you don't have an old machine with a floppy drive, you're not going to be able to do it, because there's no way you can get it onto that disk to put it into the machine to flash those BIOSes. You can probably take them out and do it on an external, on a like the TL8662s or any of those sort of EEPROM programmers. No guarantee it'll work though. They may not like the chip, they may not recognize the chip. Better to use the flash software for the board and for the BIOS and flash the chip itself. The nice thing with that too is it gives you the option to back up the old one if you want to, which is what I did just in case. So anyway, I did that and it didn't seem to make any difference. So I was there thinking, well, what could it be? So I had to sit down and think about it again, because I was getting it where it was booting and it was saying that the battery was dead and so forth, and I was going, oh, there's got to be something else. The new clocks I got that I put in, I thought, I wonder. So I took off the connection where the positive is on the side of the chip. Now when you generally do them, you usually take two off. One is the positive and one is the negative. Now, this one is the negative, this one is the positive. And I will put some diagrams up of these, of the chipsets for the clock and the pinouts. You don't need to take the negative one off. You don't need to make that hole in it, like I have. There's another way of doing it, because apparently this pin on this side, this pin on this side of the chip is ground, which is tied into the negative for the battery. So we don't need to cut into two pieces, we only need to cut one. This is what I did with the second one. And this is one of the new chips I got. Now I cut that off and cut into it, and all I used was a Stanley blade. Just be careful, because you'll cut yourself. But I just gently went in there, cutting away. The plastic piece on the side of this here came away, which was good. And I cut into it, and then I put the multimeter on it. Well, so much for new batteries. 0.47 volts is what I got. And I'm going, no wonder the poor thing's saying it's dead. So anyway, I thought, well, what happens if I put the battery on this, because when I put the battery on this one, which was the original one that came out of it, and I know it's the original because it has an extra pin on it that these other ones don't, I thought I'll do the positive and then I will check across it to make sure I can read the battery across the chip, and I can read that the same 0.47 volts was there. So I went on the positive here and onto the negative there, and it was still 0.47. I thought, okay, that's good. So then I turned around and I soldered the negative wire to the pin on here, to the very top of the pin. You have to be quite gentle when you only just want to touch it. So I did that, and then I checked the voltage from there to that pin, 3.0 some odd, 3.08 I think I had. The battery's not completely full because I've been mucking around with it and it's been discharged a little bit. I thought, that's good. So I popped the one I just made into the PC down there and turned it on. And there's a guy we all hate. His name starts with M and he's Irish. Guess what? It booted and it came up and just said, set your BIOS. So I went in, set the date and the time, shut it down, left it for about 2 minutes, powered it back on, straight up, because I don't have a floppy or anything on it. It says, floppy disk failure, press F1 to continue or delete to go into the BIOS, pressed F1 and went straight through and wanted boot media. So I thought, I wonder. So I took that one out and I put one of the old ones in, one of these ones. Popped it in, no battery on it, fired it up, battery dead, CMOS needs to be reset. Okay. So I took that one out, put the one in, I'd put the battery on that I'd only just done, put it back in, turned it on, booted up, floppy disk failure, F1 or delete to go into BIOS, and it booted straight through again. And I thought, okay. So I've checked all of the Dallas clocks I've got now, and they've all got flat batteries. The only issue I have is the original one, which is one of these. Not that one. That one. The original one, if I put it in, the machine won't boot. At all. With or without a battery, it will not boot. Take that out, put in one of these other ones, and it boots. So I'm picking there is an issue with this clock chip. So something has happened to it. So I'm not going to worry about that. I've got the new one done. Now I switched it off and left it off for about 10 minutes. And then turned it on and it came straight up. Floppy disk failure. Press F1, delete. And it worked fine. And so here is the new, this is the new one I've done. As you can see, I've only done the positive pin that side. Now the negative pin, I've run a very fine copper wire down around and underneath. And I've only just attached it to the end of that pin. So it's on there and it's a good connection. And I checked the pin to the positive and it's still reading over 3 volts. Now, I took this out of the board and left it out of the board for a few minutes. Plugged it back in, turned the machine on, and it boots. And it boots up and just says that it couldn't find the floppy disk, press F1 to continue. And I did. Doesn't moan about the battery or anything. So, I'm picking the other chips are okay. It was just something going on with that other one. And I never modded these new ones because they were supposed to be new stock and recently made. The batteries are meant to be good. So guys, unless you're paying big money for them and get a guarantee, take it with a grain of salt that these Dallas clocks are actually new. It's still cheaper buying these for about $1.80 or $2. Buying a 30-40 cent coin holder, soldering them on. It's only a few minutes to make the mod up for this. Put them on and away you go. So long as you've got a socket on your board. A lot of these were soldered in, so you got to take them out and put a socket in. That's where it takes a little bit more time. But once it's done, it's done. If you wanted to do it, you could do it and then put the clock that's not working back in the board and sell it and just say to the person, it needs a new clock chip. Save them trying to get that done, and if they can or can't get it done. Or you could do the mod to the clock chip, make sure it's okay, plug it back in the board, make sure it's holding the time and date, and then sell it with the modded clock chip on it. It's up to you. Or you can buy one of those new microcontroller ones that are out that do the different Dallas clocks. But I mean, at I think it's about $20 odd a piece, you can do a few of these. I mean, you buy the packs of 10 of the batteries for a couple of bucks. So that's totally up to you guys what you want to do. But I've got it working. So as I said, it's Murphy's Law. Everybody else was stumped as well. They couldn't work out what was going on. But anyway, that's all done and working now, and it boots up fine. I've got a pile of these CR2032 battery holders because I made a few of the Omega MSX PCs a while ago, and I had a whole pile of them for that, and I've got to find them. As we all do, it's like, where are they? So I've got to find those, and then I will do the other two chips I've got and fix the other two machines that need doing. So guys, that's ending on a good note now, not on a bad note. So there's going to be a couple of nice old retro PCs for someone to put a hard drive in and have a play. Right guys, so this is all done, and as I say, I'll put it to bed now and carry on with the others. So thank you for coming along for the journey, and thank you to the people that gave me the information on what I could try and how I could fix it. Sometimes I think it's just Murphy playing around with us, just likes to keep us on our toes. Alright guys, thanks again. Anyway guys, any suggestions, let me know. But until next time, have a great day, have a great week. Until next time, ciao.